So you're thinking of moving to Edmond, Oklahoma. My name is Kinsley Hauser, and I'm a local realtor here in Edmond, Oklahoma and its surrounding areas. Whether you're thinking about moving in 10 days or 10 months, I would love to be able to connect with you and potentially help you on your move. I love getting to work with people every single day and helping them make Oklahoma their home. Please feel free to reach out to me. Again, whether you have questions, you're thinking about moving, I will have all the ways that you can do that in the description box below. So in this video, I want to give you some pros and some cons of living in Edmond, Oklahoma. To give you a little backstory, my husband and I moved to Edmond about 3.5 years ago, and we love living in Edmond. We feel like there's a lot of places maybe within Oklahoma that we wouldn't necessarily love living just from visiting and things we've heard, but we absolutely love living in Edmond. But we have found that there are pros and there are cons. And now as I get to work with people and help them make the move to Edmond, I find that they say a lot of similar things, or maybe they, open my eyes to some things that are pros that I didn't recognize or cons that I didn't recognize. So I just want to share 5 pros and 5 cons with you of moving to and living in Edmond, Oklahoma. So the first pro, and this is definitely something I hear a lot of people talking about, is the schools. When you look at Oklahoma schools as a whole, they tend to be ranked very low. But when you specifically look into Edmond, their schools tend to be ranked very high. I have other videos where I talk about the different school districts and what that looks like. But generally speaking, you have Edmond Public Schools on the central to eastern side and Deer Creek Public Schools on the western side of Edmond. And both of these tend to be highly rated schools. Pro number 2 is environment. Edmond generally tends to rank very well on its safety and crime rates. If you do some research and kind of look up different crime rates, again, generally Edmond is going to be one of the options here in Oklahoma. And for a lot of people, that definitely draws them to the city. Also, as you're looking just at neighborhoods and community, tend to be very welcoming and friendly areas that draws a lot of people specifically here into those neighborhoods where there's a good community feel to them. Number 3 is the affordable cost of living. When you're looking at Oklahoma as a whole, it tends to be more affordable than a lot of other states. When you look specifically at Edmond, Edmond tends to be honestly one of the higher price suburbs or cities of Oklahoma City or Oklahoma. But again, when you're comparing Edmond to a lot of other cities around the United States, a lot of places people are moving from, Edmond generally tends to be less expensive. I feel like there's also a lower price point, whereas some places it's hard to, buy that first starter home for less than $400,000. Whereas here in Edmond, you're able to find homes in the 200s, possibly even under 200s. And so I think for a lot of people, it helps them kind of get started, but then also they can get a lot more bang for their buck as they're moving from places, selling more expensive houses, and then being able to buy more here in Oklahoma. Number 4 is an abundant outdoor and recreational activities. There are tons of parks in Edmond. We love going for walks, whether it's Mitch Park, Hafer Park, lots of different places around Edmond for outdoor activities. You're also close to the city, which has other options. You have Lake Hefner, and then if you're looking kind of on the eastern side of Edmond into Arcadia, you have Arcadia Lake. And so lots of things to do outside. And then pro number 5, kind of like I mentioned, is proximity to Oklahoma City. Edmond has a lot to offer with shopping, foods, parks, things like that. But there's also a lot to do in Oklahoma City. Of course, there's more to do in Oklahoma City. It is much more of a major city than Edmond is. And so you're so close to it. To my mind, it doesn't honestly feel much like going out of the way to go into Oklahoma City. You have the Oklahoma City Thunder who play in Oklahoma City. You have Bricktown, which is kind of that downtown area. There are, of course, bigger shops, bigger restaurants, bigger stores, all those things in Oklahoma City. And because in Edmond, we're so close to it, you have close proximity. You have the Oklahoma City Zoo, you have the Science Museum, you have Remington Park, you have Frontier City, which is like a smaller, it's not Six Flags, but it is through Six Flags branding, I guess, or company, but a little kind of amusement park. There's a water park as well. So you have those things in Oklahoma City that you maybe don't have in Edmond, but again, you're so close to it, it feels like you basically have it in your town. So those are 5 pros. Now I want to give you 5 cons of things that you might want to know before you move. Con number 1 is the severe weather risks. And if you look up Oklahoma, this is probably going to come up because Oklahoma is in Tornado Alley. You have the threat for tornadoes. You have the threat for other severe wind and hail. And I will say for us moving here, we've seen more hail and stronger winds than we have seen actual tornadoes. Of course, they can happen here. Historically speaking, there have not been as many in Edmond as there have been in some other parts of Oklahoma, especially looking at that Oklahoma City suburbs. I don't know if it's pure luck, scientific, whatever, but at least from our experience, what we've heard, what I've researched, Edmond tends to see less. But again, you do have those precautions in place. The weathermen that you can watch that are really good at tracking it. You have sirens that will go off when there is tornado warnings. A lot of houses come with storm shelters, or if they don't, you have the capabilities of installing a storm shelter. Those generally start around $4,000 and then increase in price based on how big you want the storm shelter and what type, whether it's in ground, above ground, outside. Again, that is one con though. A lot of people, that is a major concern for them, is the weather. Number two, and I actually kind of mentioned this in a pro, but it is higher cost of living or higher housing costs comparatively when you're looking at other cities around Oklahoma City. So like I said, if you're looking at Oklahoma City, if you're looking at other suburbs, Edmond is going to be one of the highest cost of living. The average price of a house is going to be more expensive in Edmond than a lot of those other places. So for that reason, I would say that could be a con. But again, for a lot of people moving from other states, it's still a lot more affordable than where they're moving from. So it is a con, but again, maybe not as big of one. Number three is the limited public transportation. There is some public transportation, but I know for some people they're moving from an area where they heavily rely on that. And so if that is the case, Edmond is not going to be as equipped as some other major cities around the United States, even not as well equipped as Oklahoma City is. There, again, are means of public transportation in Edmond, but it's not going to be as accessible as some other areas. Number four, and this is kind of connected to weather, but also kind of different, it's going to be the summers. The summers tend to be hot, tend to be pretty humid, not as humid as some places, but also not as dry as others. And so I would say that is one of the cons, especially for me. It gets pretty hot in the summer times. I feel like I've talked about it in a lot of videos recently, but it just gets hot and it stays hot. It seems like for a long time. Every year is different. Every summer looks different. But this year, especially this last summer specifically, felt really hot for a really long time. Number five, and for some people this is a pro, for some people this is a con. I just put it at the bottom of the list. So it's going to be Oklahoma's conservative political values. Oklahoma tends to, if you looked at the last election results, tends to vote very red and tends to be more conservative in its views. And so again, for some people, this is not a con, this is a big pro, but for some people it is a con. So I kind of just wanted to throw it in there and make you aware whether it is a pro or whether it is a con for you. So there are my pros and my cons of moving to and living in Edmond, Oklahoma. I didn't want to spend too much time on any one, but I wanted just to give you a brief overview of what each one looked like. If you're watching this and you have more questions, if you maybe want to talk through some things that I didn't discuss, or maybe I did discuss, but you want to talk through it further, definitely please feel free to reach out to me. I would love just to be able to connect with you and help you on your move when or wherever that looks like. And so thank you so much for watching to the end of this video, and I will catch you in my next one.